Hey everyone, it's that time of the week again. Time for another article aftermath. So last week I talked about shared ride and its applications in the format and all kinds of other things. Definitely comparing it to Mistake, a card that is very, very similar to it, both of which are basically to discourage your opponent or prevent them outright from doing any searching from the deck, which I think, as we all realize by now, that's a really, really, really important part of basically every top level strategy. It is very difficult to think of a deck that doesn't do any searching. In fact, the only one that comes to mind for me is basically plants. It's one of the few decks that basically has no on theme adding cards from the deck to the hand that are any good or worthwhile to play. Uh, Basically, Sangan was the only card that ever did that. Uh, and looking at now Sylvan, you basically have terraforming, and if you don't run terraforming, then there's almost no reason not to main deck Mistake. But a lot of decks they do a lot of searching, but they also want to counter the opponent's ability to search the deck, so they can't really side into Mistake because it impacts them too much. Although they would love to stop their opponent from doing all their shenanigans. So they have to find a card that allows them to stop their opponent, or at least discourage them from doing nonsense, uh, while at the same time not impacting their strategy. And this in describing a card like that, I've basically just given a full description of Max C, a card that allows you to draw a card every time your opponent special summons during the turn that it's activated. This is basically Max C and Mistake getting combined into one, and Shared Ride, of course, giving you a draw every time your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand outside of drawing. I wish it included drawing, except during the draw phase, because I think that'd be crazy. And I think there'd be some cool strategies revolving around Shared Ride. But still, I do think this is a really strong card. I'm just not 100% sold on it. And a lot of that has to do with Maxi being usually a better card. Oftentimes a better card against Mermail, oftentimes a better card against basically all of the decks that you'd really want to side in the Shared Ride. But Shared Ride definitely is still really strong in its own right. It's just a lot of the decks that are doing the multiple searching per turn are special summoning a bunch, and I think the only deck, probably the only deck that really loses to Shared Ride more than Max C is Spellbooks. Like Spellbooks, you don't really want to play Max C against, but you do really want to run Shared Ride because they're doing a lot of searching, and they're doing all that searching without doing a lot of special summoning. The problem with Girgia and Mermail is they're doing a lot of special summoning and a slightly less amount of deck searching. And so with Maxi, I think it's just usually just a better choice in most of the matchups. Now, in the future, this may completely change. If Maxi becomes unplayable for whatever reason, if everyone decides that they're going to never special summon ever, then suddenly Shared Ride becomes really, really strong, and I think a lot of people will play it, especially if a lot of those decks still rely on searching. There isn't this one deck that isn't doing any searching. Although, again, Sylvan might be that deck that is doing no searching. But, look at this card maybe a year down the line. A year from now, this could be an extremely good card. But it just depends. It depends on where that draw one card when your opponent does something. Which one is better? Is it Maxi? Is it Shared Ride? Right now, I would say it's Maxi. So I would be citing Maxi if I were you, but Shared Ride is an option, particularly if Maxi doesn't really mesh with your strategy very well, or you think you're going to play a lot of spellbooks, or you need to side against other things. Bujin, is an option. You can at least get a plus, like a quick draw off of that. If they go Tenki into a monster, you'll draw off of that. If they activate Tenki, go to Yamato, summon the Yamato, use its effect, you'll get to draw off of those cards, and that's not too bad. And you might want to run Valor instead, but I don't think Shared Ride again is too bad. And another big thing about it too is that it's a nice card to prevent you from losing under trap stun, because your opponent flips trap stun, proceeds to do a bunch of searching and all their nonsense because your mistake is disabled. It's a good way to draw a lot of cards, but so is Max C. So that's basically everything I have to say about this. It's about $15 right now. It's a little high, I think, for maybe the play that it's going to get. I would see it more at like 10 almost, but 15 is definitely buyable if you're not able to run Mistake or Thunder King Ryo, and you're going to play against a lot of things that Max C isn't necessarily good against, but does a lot of searching. Then Shared Ride might be a really good card for you. I don't know, it's something you can definitely test, and it's kind of I think it's an interesting card, and I think we might be seeing more of that in the future. So that's about it for the article. Of course, this week is... What is this week? It's a week. Yesterday we had the news on the Legacy of the Valiant Deluxe Edition. We got a final confirmed deck list for the Cyber Dragon structure deck. Lots of good news coming out of the Yu-Gi-Oh world. And yeah, this week's article is on the new Exiton Knight and number 101, Silent Honor Arc, I think that's how you say it. And I'm writing about those two and talking about how to side against them, what sort of cards are good for those for decks that make those cards a lot. So yeah, definitely check that out. And anyways, that's about it for me. I've got my Sylvan stuff together. It's coming together finally. I'm gonna have some fun this format. Yeah, but that's it for me. Thank you for listening, and until next time then.